Welcome to the Chamia show, and we're here with my homegirl, Lynette Gibson McElhaney. Why aren't we talking about race, the real racial issues? And do you feel that the media, that the mass media in the United States downplays racial issues, and specifically getting back to the Michael Brown case and its continued coverage, or rather the lack thereof? Do you think that it's because of it's a young black boy that was killed in this instance? I mean, I think back to I can't remember the young girl's name, Natalie Holloway or someone that had went missing in the Bahamas, and they thought that a young black man had killed her, and how much, I mean, Nancy Grace was talking about it, all of that. Do you think that mainstream media is not talking about Michael Brown, not talking about continuously about Trayvon and Jordan Davis and the others?
I think real journalists are covering these stories. Mm-hmm. I think America's media is consolidated into the ownership of just a handful of billionaires who are not with any real conversations of substance, whether they're about race or class, inequality or equity. So I think we really need to talk about the need to resurrect monopoly laws, antitrust laws, to restore balance and access to media channels and to communication channels, right? Like, we really have to recognize that a free press, right, is the fourth stool of our democracy, and it has been significantly compromised by corporate ownership and a whittling away, a reinterpretation out of this Supreme Court that has allowed for the mass consolidation of these media outlets. So no, the mainstream media is about selling ads and about having people feel good.
Last question real quick on Michael Brown. What does justice look like to you in this case?
I think justice in part recognizes that Michael Brown is not alone. Justice would be really examining and tracking officer-involved shootings, and that Michael Brown's tragic death produces new protocols around officer-engaged shootings, different kinds of justices for victims, and certainly, at the very least, the Congress needs to fully fund the national tracking of officer-involved shootings, and we need to begin to examine that. The number is not kept anywhere. We do not know in this country how many citizens are deprived due process because they're killed by officers either in the line of duty or outside the line of duty. So in the case of the St. Louis shooting that happened the following week after Michael was killed, and the brother's name is escaping me, he was being chased by an off-duty officer in plain clothes and then murdered. And that's, the officer enjoys an immunity or protection, right, because he's an officer. But I'm like, why do you get to look like a citizen, kill somebody in cold blood, and not stand trial? Right? Like, we have a lot of questions. And so whether or not Darren Wilson is indicted for the killing of Michael Brown, which evidence seems to suggest that what we can see in the media, what my friends are reporting on the ground in Ferguson.
Hopefully he will be.
Whether or not he's indicted, I don't think that speaks to the larger need for justice, because we would make a mistake to see Michael Brown as Michael Brown and not see Michael Brown in the same way you see your son or my son, right? Like, I think if this is only about Michael Brown, and it's not also about Eric Gardner, it's not about Amadou Diallo, if it's not about Sean Bell, if it's not about all of the brothers whose names we do not know, you know, then I think we miss the opportunity to seize the moment. This isn't about Ferguson any more than the Montgomery bus boycott was about Montgomery. Right? It was about dismantling the system of segregation, and I think that this is at the crux of what does it mean to have a system of justice in our society. And when there's abuse of power, when a young white boy with mental illness can be killed in his parents' home, right? He's 17 years old. They called to get help because their son was manic. And the first officers respond and get this child under control. A second officer comes in and says, I don't have time for this, and unloads a gun in this baby's chest 6 times. We need to have a conversation about the abuse of police powers which we vest in people for our protection, and not so that any mother or family member of somebody mentally ill will be, you know what I'm saying, they have to live in that kind of tyranny.
Right. Thank you. So turning to the midterm elections, what Prop 47 passed here in the state of California with roughly 59% of the vote allowing for sentence reductions, early release of prisoners. Since that passing, there have been multiple news stories where law enforcement officials are talking about predicting an upswing in crime, stating that they won't have resources to enforce this upswing in crime, and really media vilification of the passing of Prop 47. My question to you is, what are the city of Oakland's plans, or what are the conversations that you're having to address this prisoner release and the inmates, and what are the services that you're looking forward to offering to those who have been incarcerated, who have served their time, who are now being released and offered second or third chances?
So let's talk about Prop 47 in a broader context.
Sure.
There is a failed policy. The longest war in American history is the failed war on drugs, which was really an excuse, a ruse, right, for privatizing the government's responsibility to incarcerate those who would do society harm, and we've made profiteering off of people's misery. We have seen a significant abuse by lawmakers under the influence of prison industrial lobbyists to increase criminalization for things that a generation ago were infractions. So Prop 47 takes one step, just one
little baby step.
One little baby step at saying we want to go back to being a just society, not a penal one. Right? We don't want to live in a penal colony. We want to treat infractions as infractions and misdemeanors as misdemeanors, and we don't need to place people who still bubblegum in the same cell as someone who rapes and murders. Right? Like, common sense would dictate that we would do something differently.
So we've taken this baby step.
We've taken a baby step. And in the city of Oakland, our officers, our lead law enforcement officers, welcome these changes. It allows us to focus resources on the most violent crime, the most serious of crime that actually works to destabilize communities and make the city less safe. We are less safe when you take officers chasing down people doing infractions, and then we don't have any resources or limited resources to go after people who are snatching women from the street, raping people in their homes, robbing people with guns and being violent, right? Like, so we're excited in the city of Oakland to have overwhelmingly supported the passage of 47. Look at the data.
So opponents of 47 will take, your response and even the passing of Prop 47 to say, well, if I am the victim of a misdemeanor crime, then I shouldn't report it, because the police officers won't come out and take the report. They won't have time to enforce it.
47 does not say you won't be punished. It says you're not going to prison. Right? Like, there is, in our history, for the vast majority of American history, the adjudication of misdemeanor crimes. I mean, even the president can be impeached for misdemeanor, right? There are high crimes and misdemeanors.
Right.
So a misdemeanor is a crime and it should be reported. What it says is that we will no longer fatten the private prison industry by guaranteeing them bodies. It takes us away from the plantation economy of justice. And it's a good thing.
It is a great thing.